a kingdom in peril and a princess missing. Yeah, it's just another day in Hyrule. But this ain't Link's first rodeo, and I'm sure it's not yours either. So we best dust off our trusty sword and shield combo, and get to work putting things right. Our adventure begins on Great Sky Island. That's very much like the Great Plateau from Breath of the Wild. Essentially, a microcosm of the entire game itself. Where you're given a crash course on everything you need to know to get started. Link conveniently finds his abilities reset, which is the way of things in sequels. But soon, you're equipped with 3 shiny new ones. Ascend, Ultra Hand, and Fuse. Empowering you with all kinds of interesting ways of taking on greater Hyrule. Letting you hit the ground running, or the water swimming in this instance. So where do we go from here? Well, that's entirely up to you, because the main quest can be pursued in whatever order you like. Hyrule is made up of 4 distinct regions. Home to the Rito, Goron, Garuda, and Zora. All with unique environments, weather, geography, and culture. A series of cataclysmic disasters have struck since the events of Breath of the Wild. We've got to work out what's going on and put things right.
That's bad. Real bad. Gerudo Town is in danger!
With the help of some familiar faces.
Zelda, wait!
A good way of getting started is by scanning the horizon and making note of whatever's interesting. Hyrule Castle stands smack bang in the middle of the map and can be seen from almost anywhere. It makes for an excellent way of orientating yourself, no matter where your journey takes you. There are other distinct landmarks too that serve a similar purpose. The towers scattered about Hyrule can assist on the navigation front, unlocking map data and propelling you skyward, providing impressive bird's eye views. If you happen to have your glider, you can then soar majestically to your next point of interest. Here's where you might notice the occasional glyph etched into the terrain. They're key to piecing together Zelda's story through flashbacks. So, worth taking a detour for.
I wonder. Minoru. She may have some idea of how to get you back to your era.
Despite playing constantly, I found days would sometimes pass between advancing the plot, because I kept getting sidetracked on my way to the destination. But really, that's half the fun, because there's lots of colourful locals along the way who find themselves in all kinds of predicaments. like the sign guy who needs Link's assistance keeping them upright. He's a constant on your adventure, putting your fuse and engineering skills to the test. Then there's a band of travelling musicians who must reunite to save the world. With tunes. Essential too if you seek an audience with the great fairies. And who wouldn't? They're key to upgrading your armour after all. Though there's more than a little legwork required. And if you played the first installment, you'll know that Koroks are hidden everywhere. Collecting them is how you expand your inventory too, if you need incentive to track them down. The Hero's Path feature can probably assist on that front, essentially tracking your every movement on the map screen, giving an overview of your adventure. While it's cool to see all the places you've been, you can also deduce the places you've missed. Useful information when plotting your next move. The game's not big on hand-holding, preferring that you work things out on your own. Curiosity is rewarded though, and the game never gets in the way of problem solving. How one player overcomes an obstacle might be entirely different from another after all. At first, I assumed you required some sort of separate ability to travel skyward. But really, you've got the means right from the get-go. It just requires a creative solution. Maybe involving a fallen ruin, hot air balloon, or observation tower. The biggest addition comes in the form of the fuse ability, allowing you to construct elaborate engineering marvels. From jet-powered minecarts to hot air balloons, motor vehicles to Wright Brother-esque flying contraptions, all assembled with a variety of parts that can be found or purchased. If you've spent any time on the internet, you've likely seen all manner of weird and impressive builds. Equipment durability was one of the biggest criticisms of Breath of the Wild. While weapons and shields still break, they can be enhanced considerably with fuse, making them more powerful too, by adding elemental effects and the like. Combat makes up a big part of the game, with all kinds of enemies to take on. So making sure you're properly equipped is strategy tried and true. There's also an incredibly powerful rewind ability with clever practical applications, where you can ride a log upstream or a fallen meteor back into the sky. But it was one of those abilities not used as often as the others, so easy to forget about. From time to time, Link also encounters powerful sages. They'll travel with you and provide useful support, some more intuitively than others. Climbing is determined by stamina, weather, and creative use of ascent. Sometimes you can make your own ledges or bypass climbing entirely with clever engineering. Ascent really is a game changer, letting you scale mountains by burrowing through solid matter. Dungeons are typically a staple of a Zelda game. But Breath of the Wild did things a little differently, in the form of divine beasts. With the more standard puzzly gameplay moved into bite-sized shrines instead. Tears of the Kingdom embraces the traditional structure though, once again providing elaborate temples themed around the elements that are always fun to explore. But that doesn't mean they've done away with the shrines either, which can still be found scattered about, helping to reinforce the fundamentals through puzzles, where something will click in your head and you'll realize you can use abilities in ways you hadn't considered. And solving puzzles makes you feel like a genius, hitting you with a rush of endorphins. Plus, they're the means of upgrading Link's health and stamina too. Your primary way of getting about is by horse, assuming you haven't built an elaborate vehicle. Often found grouped together in the meadows, they can be tamed by sneaking up and catching one. And you're never too far away from a cozy horse stable, where you can log them while also getting a good night's sleep. If cooking is your thing, you can experiment with different ingredient combinations. Sometimes successfully, other times not so much. But you'll build up an extensive collection of recipes. Food and potions restore health and stamina, as well as provide other varied effects. If you're in a cold environment, for example, you can make something that'll warm Link up. Pay attention to what Link is wearing too, because it's not just for aesthetics. You've got to dress for your environment. Some climates are warm, some climates are cold. Tears of the Kingdom just so happens to be a direct sequel. Something of a rarity for Nintendo. It's built on its predecessor's well-established formula, and expanded upon in a myriad of ways. While the graphics aren't state-of-the-art, the game proves a solid art direction is more important. Whether it's the beautiful sunsets, getting caught in a thunderstorm, or something striking on the horizon. For better or worse, the Hyrule here is the same as in Breath of the Wild. And one of the draw cards of the first installment was taken in these environments for the first time. So how does Tears of the Kingdom differentiate itself when you've already been everywhere? I found that it had been so long since my first playthrough that it was fun to explore again. But there were definite moments of recognition and deja vu as well. Thankfully, punctuated from time to time with new stuff. Particularly above and below. With floating islands just waiting to be explored, and subterranean caverns known as the Depths. To be honest, I wasn't the greatest fan of the Depths and generally avoided it. It's overly dark and lacking the visual appeal of the surface, and often felt more like padding. The skies are a lot of fun though, with an element of puzzle solving in how you get from island to island. But really, it's the abilities like Fuse that makes the game feel distinct. Though the game can get repetitive from time to time. Like the overly long cutscenes when you finish a shrine or whenever there's a blood moon.
Witness the blood moon's rise.
I think the biggest criticism of Tears of the Kingdom is that it feels like an incredible expansion pack. Though it's full of interesting ideas, it doesn't differentiate itself enough from Breath of the Wild. And that's mostly due to Hyrule itself. But Zelda's journey through time and space is super engaging, as is the moment-to-moment gameplay. While Breath of the Wild is a tough act to follow, you'll still absolutely have a blast. Okay, that's enough. That was MoseyThrough. I'm Dan Clarke. Thanks for watching. And don't forget to mosey through to the like and subscribe buttons.